Hey everybody, welcome back to UniXTCG, and today we're about to go into the ins and outs of Kid. I put a poll, asked people wanted me to do Luffy or Kid first. You guys chose Kid. We have just come back from this week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a box tournament on Sunday, which this is like the wee hours of Monday morning when I'm recording this. So basically, we've gone through 6 locals and a box tournament, and every single event I came in X1, which is kind of a little disappointing because there were a couple times with Zora I came over with there was a bunch of times with Zora that I just went XO, but this week I've always just taken 1L. Today at the box tournament I came in 2nd place again. I basically went 4-0 in Swiss, and then I got my top 8, my top 4, and I lost to Dofi in the finals. The moment I saw the matchup I was like, oh no. And I tried playing a way I hadn't played before because the ways I've been playing have not been working against Dofi, but I'm pretty sure I conceptually understand the matchup now. It just wasn't in the cards. He was down to 1 life and I ended up dying myself. So with that being said, we have a lot to get into. I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible so that you guys don't have to sit here forever. I want to thank everybody for the support on my magic numbers video. It has not only been going off and people have been saying a lot of good things about it, but even at the box tournament today, I was talking about it and just some of the theory behind it, and people were really keying in. Like, there was just a moment where shout outs to the dude I faced the last round of Swiss, and then he was also my top 4 opponent. We were just like neck and neck, right? And at one point he was tapped out. He was tapped out with 2 cards in hand, and our resources were very, very scarce. He had broken my board twice via shanks, and I had to reestablish, and that takes a lot of cards out of your hand when your kid gets blown up, and then you have to like really just do that. So I restabilized on him, but I was like a turn away from dying, maybe 2 turns away from dying. It was hard to stabilize a 3rd time, but he had 2 cards in hand and 1 life. So I ended up putting a Dawn on Kid, my 8-drop Kid, making him a 9k, and I was like 2 cards in hand, that's at most 2Ks, so I'm gonna swing for 9k. He looked at me, he kind of was like, ugh, and then he took it. And I was like, even if you picked up a 2k from life, your maximum hit right now is 6k. So I put 6 Dawn on my Kid leader and swung, and the crowd, like the people watching us, went off because he literally put out Otama, Gordon, and Brooke and shook my hand. Was like, that's crazy. So it's like the math really did come through. So if you are looking for a way to level up, I would suggest going over to that video. And if you want to help the channel, think about hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and like the video, comment on the video so it helps it trend. Now we're gonna go into Kid. I'm gonna start off with a simple deck list. They're gonna go incredibly fast on that one, and I'm gonna talk about some of the do's and don'ts, the matchups, followed by certain cards that I definitely feel like teching or not teching. And it's going to be a really good treat. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's run through the deck list real quick just so you guys see what's going on. And after we're done with that, we can move directly into, let me just readjust this. Sorry, green screen issues. Then we can go straight into just what's going on with the deck. So real quick, we didn't update it too much. There are some changes I make, but I'll save those for a future video. So we've got Jewelry Bonnie at 4. We took Momonosuke down to 3, right? Because Momonosuke is a good searcher, but if you get on a roll with Momonosuke, like if you have Bonnie and Momonosuke, it's one thing. But when you have just Momonosuke, you start bottom decking some of the most important pieces of your deck. And what I mean by that is when it comes to the Wano package, like for instance, you top deck a Momonosuke. You can miss Scratch Manapoos, which is fine because you can pick up Izos. That's fine. But you also happen to miss your blockers. All of your blockers in this deck are supernovas, whether it's Killer, whether it's Beige, whether it's Law. Sorry for that. So essentially what ends up happening is when you end up getting on a roll with Momonosuke, you really start putting so many cards on the bottom of the deck. So because of that, I decided to put him at 3. If he gets there, he can fish some cards. But otherwise, you know, we're just not trying to risk it all on him. Then we ended up putting Killer down from 4 to 3 to make some space. After that, you're probably wondering, what do we do with that space, right? The answer is nothing too crazy. Like, it's not like some crazy tech came out of nowhere, you see. Let me move this one. Let me move that one. Technically, he's not a part of the Super Nova engine, but it is what it is. And then we get 8-drop Kid. Now, here's the things that we did. We took out the, well, we went down that a long time ago. We took out the Momonosuke for a singular copy of Straw Sword, adding on to the events, because a Straw Sword allows you to tap anything, and there are just certain times where that is 100% necessary. So, this is the current deck list. Just letting you know, I can tell you right now, this deck eats red decks alive. Like, shout outs to Giancarlo. He was 100% right. Your red decks cannot compete versus this. Like, it's just like really bad. Like, you have to draw exceptionally bad, and they have to be like exceptionally on point for you to lose that one. Next, you have the purple matchup, which is very, very much so. And I guess actually, let me back up. I'll go into these because this is a how-to, and you guys want to know exactly what this deck does. Against red, red has no ways of plussing, really. All their cards are break even. The Namis, they search top 5, right? And then you go into the 2 years later and they search top 5, but you take a card out of your hand to then go into another card. Nami makes a body, so I guess that's cool. But yeah, most of the deck just breaks even, meaning that they can only go so many times. Like, every time they swing in, if you break the board the next turn, they have to recreate it, and they don't have any ways of plussing, so eventually the deck peters out. It's all about momentum, and you're there to take that momentum and bring it into a wall. The cards that are best at this, right, are Okiku. That's why you're seeing her at 4 on all these lists. She is just busted. You put a Dawn underneath her, and when she swings, she starts tapping things. At first, this may seem like, okay, well, you can get at things that, you know, people don't want to be stopped. Like, if you go first and you land an Okiku before they land, like, their Robins, you're pretty much in control until they jet pistol this thing. Mainly because you'll be able to swing and tap their chopper, then lead or swing at the chopper. The name of the game against red is to not swing at their life until you have put up a board that is almost unbreakable for them, which normally involves the Kid, a Law, and then another blocker with whatever else around it. And Akiku is good at that because every turn you'll be able to attach Dawn to her, swing at something they just swung with, tap something they don't want you to swing at, and swing at that with the leader. The common setups, you know, they swung with Zoro. You dropped a 2K, all right, just to block it. Next turn, you put 2 Dawn underneath Okiku, swing at Zoro for 2K. Their hand's probably only about 5 cards. It's going to be very rough to drop 3 of them or 2 of them just to save Zoro, especially when you have all of your energy open and they know that a card like this could come right after, or you can attach that. So likely that Zoro dies. After that Zoro dies, because you've tapped a Nami, because you've tapped a Chopper, because you've tapped something on their board, you then swing at it with Kid. There you go. You cleared 2 things. You haven't given them a single card in hand. If they tried to defend you, they might have lost cards in hand. And it gets worse the more energy, the more Dawn you have, because then you're able to just to completely play those games. You kind of end up cruising into your altitude. I'll take my first 2 life almost willy-nilly, and I'll hold on to the last 3. A lot of the games against red, I'm at 1 life when I win. Sometimes I'm at 0. I beat my round 4 in Swiss today at the box tournament with 0 life, held 0 life for 4 turns. And by the way, my matchups today were Zoro, the Mirror. Yeah, I played Zoro, I played the Mirror, then I played the Mirror again, then I played Luffy, then in top 8 I played another Zoro, then I played the same Luffy I played in top 4. I played him in the last round of Swiss, then I played Dofi at the end and I lost to Dofi. So you have that. But that's pretty much the red matchup. You stabilize, like, because essentially what I'm going to kind of get at is when you have a board that's like this guy sideways, like I'm telling you, this is how often this happened. This guy sideways, right? And then you have, I should probably move these up so I can show you guys boards. I'm so sorry. Optimize. This is my first time doing a video like this, so excuse me when the setup is not as good as it could be. But what I'm trying to say is that when you have, a lot of the times when I say an unbreakable board, you may be wondering what's that look like, and often what it looks like against that deck is this. A Kid turns sideways, right? A Law up, a Killer, And then for me, often, it's just something like this, okay? It's something like this. You could either have this, the amount of times where I have had something like that, and every turn I just tap 2 for the +2, get 2 cards in hand, and then I just replace the blocker, because likely he blocked last turn and died. I just replaced the blocker. 2 of my matches today, I was able to establish a second kid. Like, their hand was just low enough to where I was like, there is no way this dude is ending me. So I'm going to play that, and like that, I'm going to keep both of my searchers up, then I'm just going to play another one, and I'm going to tap him, Dawn under him. That's a total of 10 Dawn. 8, 9, 10. And then you're sitting here with a blocker, 2 freaking kids, and then your searcher's up. And with 2 cards in hand, it's almost impossible. They have to swing hard enough to kill 1 kid from an empty board. And if they swing hard enough to kill 1 kid, all you have to do is block once. And with a setup like this, if I felt comfortable enough to play this, I probably had about 12k counter in hand. There was my top 8 match, I had 18 cards in hand, and it was just impossible for him to break through. So that's like just a very, very, very powerful sort of play. It felt really, really good. Now, when it comes to green, right? Green is almost the same, except you have to pick up the tempo a little bit. And what I mean by that is that the first person in a green mirror to hit 1 life is generally the first person to die, because once you hit that threshold, you're gonna have a very, very, very easy situation of the Omega Giga Monkey Chad play that Kid has access to. And what I mean by that is being able to put massive amounts of Dawn under him, swinging, and then if it connects, tapping 3, and then just doing it again. So against the Kid mirror, you pretty much do the same thing. You need to attack their board. In the Kid mirror, whoever holds this card up longer generally is going to just win right out. And you end up having a lot of ways to go back and forth, but it really is a test of mastery over the mirror. If both players have access to like good draws, or at least decent draws, you're generally going to have whoever is practicing that matchup more coming out on top. But what you're going to have is blowing up their board, and every now and then when you think you can get it in, throw a damage at the leader, because eventually what you're going to have is a point where they have 3, 4, 5 cards in hand, but they only have 1 life. You both have blockers, maybe you both have not blockers, but if you have 3 life and they don't have anything on board that can swing, what you know is that you can swing at them, and if you put them down to 1 life, like even if you put them down to 2 life, hold your board, put them down to 1 life, they cannot kill you the following turn. They just can't. There's no hasters in the deck. They can at most deal 2 damage to you by going monkey mode on their leader, and if they go monkey mode on their leader, you know you're killing them on the crackback next turn. So that is pretty cool. I like it a lot. Now against purple, this is where it gets kind of dicey, because red is an easy matchup, in my opinion. Green can be tedious, but generally if you practice it, you should be good, and as long as you don't draw like complete cheeks. Now purple is weird, because purple is both weak and strong against Kid. The 10 drop is devastating to any deck, but even red can keep playing off the top of their deck with some momentum. You can kill a dude after he hits you with the 10 drop in red if you're low enough. Same with this. The only difference is you can't play off the top of the deck with Kid, which is the point I'm going to hit very much so later. So when Kid is top decking, or Kid is trying to establish a board, if you 10 drop and then if they 10 drop you and you cannot kill them, they are going to stabilize on you and you will never build a board again versus Kaido. But on the flip side, if you push Kaido as hard as you possibly can, Kaido will not be able to play the 10 drop against you, because if they're at 2 life or 1 life, they should know for a fact the moment if you drop Kaido to 1 life, they can't play the 10 drop. It's just impossible. Unless you were at 0 life, it's literally, actually even at 0 life, you'd have to be at 0 life and 0 cards in hand for them to feel comfortable playing the 10 drop, because then they could just swing with the leader, and you can't have blockers on board. Well, actually your blockers will be gone. So that's the only situation. But even if you had 1 life, they wouldn't really like it unless they had like somehow like 19 2k counters in hand, because they play the 10 drop, they're tapped out, they go down to 5 Dawn, and then you just punch them in the face twice for 12k. So purple is a very, 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 very precarious matchup because you have to put the gas on there. You have to keep your life above 2, and you have to put the gas on them. And when it comes to their like big bodies, all you can do is block them. You can't really successfully combo out of them, so you have to start chumping your Vages and your killers, and you only have 8 of those. Eventually you have to chump a Law, and on top of that, they have Destruction. Law's the only one that can be destroyed by half their deck. Like, the moment you get a 7-drop king and you get 2 blockers taken away, you're gonna feel terrible. So it really is a race, and it's a battle of tempo. You have to beat purple down early as you can in the game in order to not have them stabilize on you. Blue is almost the exact same, except it's even worse, because blue doesn't have to minus Dawn. Blue has a bunch of cheap cards that will bounce your stuff, and then these cards that are even better at bouncing, or even bigger but also bounce your stuff, are cards that are almost on Kaido levels of you can't counter out of, you have to block, except they will be bouncing back your blockers too, and you'll probably be countering with said blockers. So it becomes a very, very rough matchup. Blue has a lot of good cards, and when they stabilize their 7-drop Croc, when they stabilize and they drop their Dofi, when they drop their Mihawk if they play it, you're looking at cards that you can't even swing into, because the moment you invest enough Dawn to swing into those, they can block you with a 2k and a 1k, and then you just wasted your entire turn essentially. So it is a battle for tempo, but I will say right here, blue is your worst matchup as green. It just is. And so those are pretty much the matchups. I'll just repeat it one more time. Red should be your feeding matchup. When I see red at the other end of the table, I breathe a sigh of relief. Green is going to be practice dependent. I used to feel a little sweaty about green, but now I feel pretty comfortable playing in that space. I played the mirror like 5 times this weekend, and I lost 1 of them. So then you literally have purple, which is a little nail biting, because you like if purple just draws enough blockers and enough event cards, you won't break them and they'll stabilize on you, and that's Murder She Wrote. Blue is rough. I got to the finals of the box tournament, saw the Dofi, and I already felt like, dang, so second place, right? And I got him down to 1 life, but it's just the way the matchup is. It is very, very rough. So past that, going outside of the matchups, my cat going wild in the background needs to stop. So there are a couple cards that people do kind of tech, and I do want to talk about them. I want to let you guys in on my process on why I don't run them. So it's pretty much like the first one here is, sorry, my cat's just going wild. The first one here is Basil Hawkins. A lot of people do like this card because he can put pressure on boards. He's almost like a more threatening Okiku in the late game, because once he sticks, he becomes an issue. You can put 10 or 4 Dawn underneath him and then swing at Kid for 10k and just know that it's gonna tap. Now, you probably should put more under it. I won't front. You probably should put more under it, because he is going to be he's gonna be a little thick, right? Like, if he comes in for 12k, that's a lot to combo out of. That's a lot that your opponent has to really be like, wow, so this is happening, right? And yeah, I'll be real, like, that's gonna be a little bit to come out of. Now 12 is still kind of rough, because you're gonna be dropping 3 cards from hand if you're not blocking it, but even so, he does allow you to have a lot of pressure. The thing I don't like is that he is not a good top deck card. If you were top decking this game, there are plenty of game changers that help. These two could search for more cards. This guy could help stabilize you if you have blockers on board. She's a 2k. 2ks are always good just for the defense. This could blow up something after you swung into it. The amount of times that some people, they don't know if you have the kid until they know you have the kid. So you can swing 5k to 5k or 4k to 5k, and they're like, okay, I'll drop a 1k. Okay, 5k to 4k. All right, I'll drop a 2k. Be like, all right, dog, tap 3, killer. I just minused you for 2 cards in hand, and like that works. That happened in my my top 4 opponent. He had a Robin, and I swung into it for neutral with Rizo, and then he dropped a card, and I swung into it with my leader, and he dropped a 2k, and then I tapped 3 and played Kid, and he smiled. He was like, all right, you got me. So there's things like that. But you see, there's a lot of good cards that are good for top decking. You top deck this card, and you have to wait an entire turn for him to be usable. In that time, somebody can literally Okiku it and swing on it for heavy with their leader. You could straw sword it and swing heavy on it with anything. There's a lot of stuff he has to survive the full round for that to be good. The next card I wanted to talk about is X Drake. I feel like he sits in the same kind of category. He is going to be able to come out and he needs to survive an entire turn. And then if he does, he allows you to do a lot of cool things with your board. But you know, you have to have a board around him. If you don't have a board set up, what is he doing alone? Swinging for 6-7k? That's the perfect number, but it is what it is. Now, the third one is Yamato. I do love her. However, this is once again a card that comes down. It has to survive the entire turn, and then it has to go sideways and connect. Those are 3 things. It's a 5 cost investment. That's half of your turn if you're at max Dawn. Then it has to survive. It's vulnerable to all of these. It's vulnerable to this one. It's vulnerable to Straw Sword. It can still be swung on heavy. And then you have to swing with it and connect it. And it still can be blocked. It still can be countered out. It's a 5k, that's respectable, but Zora's a 5k too, and we block those all the time. All 3 of these, for me personally, not saying if they work for you, I'm happy. But for me, these are win more cards. If you are already in a winning position, if you already have a board that's protecting you enough, that has other threats enough for this guy to walk, you're golden. If you already have a board that's big enough for this guy to give everything a 1k boost, you're golden. If you have, once again, a board that's stacked enough to protect this, and a hand that's strong enough to protect this if it gets tapped and swung on, you are golden. But if you're just sitting here tit for tat and you top deck this card, oh no. Like, you can play it and hope that nothing happens to it. Play it, hope nothing happens to it. Play it, hope nothing happens to it. They can do work, but I feel like in all the situations that these cards do work, you were already winning in the first place. So that's just me. The other 3 cards, or the other couple cards I want to talk about, is this. Now, I understand a lot of people like this card. Here is my issue, though. Let's talk about the matchups. Against Purple. We'll start there. Purple, late game, when you're playing this, Purple are playing cards that can literally go neutral with this. And you never want to be on the defending side with that situation in mind, because when people can go neutral versus you, they win the tie. So a Kaido player swinging for 9k at this guy, you have to put him up to 10k. That's 2 cards out of your hand minimum, and that's a drain. And then on top of that, that's just a block, dude. That's just a single block. If they swing, you have to block and then go in that much. He's gonna chump a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, but this is a 7-drop investment. He's only gonna block 1 swing, and against Purple, he's fairly easy to get over, you know? 9-drop Kaido, 8-drop promo Kaido, 10-drop Kaido's blowing the board. A king with 3 Dawn on it. Yeah, that's gonna be rough for you. Now, moving forward into the purple or the blue matchup, Mihawk and Doflamingo both bounce this guy. It is so bad to play this guy and think you're safe and then have a Dofi come down and bounce this dude. And then you're just like, wow, the momentum has completely changed. I played 7, played this. He played 7, bounced this. It didn't even get a chance to swing. And now I have to re-answer this. But, you know, the way this game goes, when you play a card that needs to survive and they already have a card that can contest it on the board, you're not in a good position unless your board is extremely stacked. And with blue, it's very hard to hold out blockers because they can always bounce them. When it comes to the mirror, this guy is actually very, very good in the mirror. He's very hard to swing over. He's going to be able to block and put in work. So in the mirror, he shines the brightest. In the matchup for red, I don't like him. You can get rid of him the same way as you can get rid of this one. You hit him with the Otama, you hit him with the jet pistol. But 7 is also not a huge number. He can be swung on. If they run Shanks, he's gone. If they run even Zoro being boosted enough, he's gone. Luffy will easily hit numbers that can hit this guy. Bang, gone. But the worst part for me is that if somebody plays a Luffy and piles on Dawn to it, 5 Dawn to play Luffy, 5 Dawn under him, swing. He's getting up to 11k, or if they're the Luffy deck, 12k, or if they're the Luffy deck with a Nami, you can have multiples under him. Point is, you have to still swing at this kid. You have to. You don't have to swing at this guy because he's a blocker. You can swing straight through him with that Luffy. And that is a massive problem for me. So I opted to not play this card. Last card, Punk Gibson. I told you guys in the earlier videos, I don't exactly love this card anymore because if you play right, you can sequence around Punk Gibson. You should always be sequencing with your battle cards. With your characters, you should always be doing that, swinging from your lowest to highest values. If you feel like Punk Gibson is the threat, if you feel like it's the only thing that can hurt you, yeah, change your order around a bit. Make him have to work for it. But you should be sequencing around Punk Gibson being optimal if you're playing correctly. On top of that, it's a dead card in hand the turn you play 8-drop Kid, and that is the weakest turn you have in the game. If you play him and leave him untapped, cool, you can Punk Gibson. But if you play him and you need to turn him sideways, I'd rather just have a Paradise Waterfall in hand with a blocker or two up. It's just as simple as that. So I end up opting not to play Punk Gibson. So this is pretty much my list. The cards that I feel underperformed, everything that this guy can destroy, this X Drake, you can pretty much destroy with Killer. So this card could easily be another card. When I saw this one time, it put in work. There were 3 times I searched and then I put this at the bottom of the deck because I didn't need it. So maybe that stays at 1, maybe it goes up to 2, not quite sure. Counter is important. I lost Kid twice because I could tie them because I was missing a single 1K. So Beppo kind of underperforms because he's not searchable. You just have to draw him, but he is another 2K. So maybe we go up. Everything else is pretty cool. My favorite combos, I have to say, in this deck is having one of the searchers up and Raizo, because you can tap this for 1, draw a card, or search top 5 to take a card. Then you can swing with Raizo at leader, not cause any damage, draw a card because you already have 1 tapped and you just drew after that. This is such an advantage. And then when your field, like the amount of times that I had fields that look like this, like, I'm not gonna front, guys. This is the most broken setup that you can like have in this deck. Honest to goodness, because every single turn was tap 1, look at top 5, swing at your leader, draw a card. Attach 2 Dawn to my leader, swing for 7K. Attach a Dawn here, swing for 9K. Attach a Dawn here, swing for 9K. Pass. I have multiple Dawn up. I can have Paradise Waterfalls in hand. I can have counters in hand for days. And then I don't need to add on to anything on the board. They swing 1 time. And, you know, they have to swing at the blocker. I can block it, or I can just pile on because I'm gaining so many cards in hand. And then we just rinse, lather, and repeat. Every turn we draw for turn, that's 1 card. We search top 5, that's a 2nd card. We swing with that, that's a 3rd card. We plus 3 every single turn into our hand, and then just hold the board like this. And when they get to like barely any life, we just do it again and finish off the rest of the life with the leader. So that's pretty much that. Long video, yes, but you guys said you wanted it. We'll be doing one on red later in the week. The giveaway is officially over. I'm going to be tallying up that and trying to get that giveaway video out in the next couple days. So thank you guys for riding with me, and we'll do something crazier, cooler in the future. I swear, we're just going up from here. This week is Purple Week, so I will be playing Kaido for every locals I go to, and I'll be coming up with videos for that. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, let me know how you like the content. I'm going to have the chapters. You guys should see by now there are chapters in here if you want to show your friends and take them to the specific parts that they like. And yeah, thank you guys for being along with me for this ride. Having a really great time playing this game, making these videos. Thanks. See you later.